Hello. Hi. Hi. Howdy, y'all. Namaste and welcome to IDIS 1250, Introduction to Sustainability Studies, which I'm calling a quest for harmony. My name's Dr. Brad Bannon, and I'll be your professor slash guide. I really tend to think of myself more as a guide, especially for this course, Introduction to Sustainability Studies. This is the first time that this course has been offered at Fitchburg State University, and I'm very honored and excited to be the first one to guide you through this course. I've been excited about it and nervous about it and working on it for many months, and I hope you like what I've come up with. I wrote a textbook. Well, really, I should say I'm in the process of writing a textbook for the course, working on chapter 12 right now, so I'm up through spring break. But the textbook isn't even the main part of this course. In addition to the reading assignments, we'll also be watching TED Talks and watching documentaries and other videos and films throughout the semester. And I'll be watching them and going right along with you and experiencing it with you. This is our family cow, Buttercup. I forgot to put food in there. I don't know if your other professors start their online courses the same way or not. For me, it's more of a necessity because I've got a lot going on. I'm teaching 5 classes and, running a homestead. But for me, I really wanted to emphasize that being sustainable. A lot of people think of sustainability as something in the future, but we really have to be sustainable starting yesterday, not tomorrow. So we've got to find solutions for our unsustainable practices today or even yesterday. And in fact, as maybe the point I'm trying to make with milking Buttercup for this introductory video, my point is that a lot of the solutions that we need to our modern problems are actually quite old. They've actually been around for a long time. A lot of people tend to think of sustainability as something in the future, something that we have to develop technologies in order to be more sustainable. And that's part of it for sure. But a lot of the solutions might be solutions that have been around for a long time. We have to find a way to live in greater balance and harmony with our surroundings. We need to be more in touch with nature. We need to be more in touch with our food. It doesn't mean that everybody needs a family cow or that everybody could have a family cow. But I do feel that very many people in our society suffer, as we'll talk about later in the semester, from what many psychologists refer to as nature deficit disorder. We're out of touch with our food. We're out of touch with our food, where our food comes from. We're out of touch with just nature. I suppose, to be honest, part of why I wanted to start this way also was to show that this isn't just another course for me. This is not, I teach a lot of courses and I love teaching. I love being a professor. I've been a professor for 10 years. But in many ways, I feel like my career in my life has been leading towards teaching a course exactly like this, Introduction to Sustainability Studies. For me, this isn't all academic. For me, this is a lifestyle. This is a way of living, a way of raising my family, raising my kids, to be in contact with nature and to try and live, in harmony with the world around us. Now, this is just an introductory course, and it's an introductory course as part of our new minor at Fitchburg State University in sustainability studies. I'm also teaching another course this semester, environmental ethics or ecological ethics. Anything in interdisciplinary studies requires, working across lots of disciplines. So we'll learn a bit about microbiology. We'll learn a little bit about earth sciences. We'll learn a little bit about a lot of things, including microbiology. Microbiology is actually a critically important aspect of sustainability in general. The relationship between microbiology and macrobiology, or even macro environmental sciences, is probably far more significant than you might have guessed. Certainly far more significant than I guessed, and I think more significant than most even scientists realized, a decade ago. We've learned so much in the recent decades. She's all good. So that was just a test for mastitis, just to make sure her boobs are all healthy, and they are. And the way I've divided the course up is into 3 parts. Part 1 is really just focusing on the basics, learning the basics of sustainability studies, the core ideas, the core theories and methods, that sort of stuff. We'll study things like systems thinking. System studies is kind of a big deal for philosophers like me, especially the kind of philosophy that I do. We'll also learn about the 3 E's of sustainability, which are ecology, you probably expected, economy, which you may or may not have expected, and equity or equality. So talking about ecological justice and social justice, and about living in harmony and in balance. We really need all 3 of these 3 E's, sometimes called the triple bottom line of sustainability, in order to be sustainable. We can't have sustainable practices unless the economics work out, and we can't have economic growth without sustainability. It's going to fall apart. So anyway, part 1 is really about understanding the basics of sustainability studies and systems thinking, and those, a little bit of earth science in there too. A lot of that, I hope, will be a review from things that you learned in high school. Then we'll turn to part 2. Part 2 is about applying those principles and seeing how they look in practice, right? So real practical application of sustainability studies. And there we'll look at some real concrete problems and solutions. I don't want to spend this whole semester focused on all of the problems we've got in the world. There's plenty of problems to go around and plenty of that going out there. We'll have to do a little bit of that, but I'm going to focus mostly on solutions. What solutions can we do here and now? What solutions can you do here and now today to be more sustainable and to lead a more sustainable life, start a more sustainable business, and just to, in general, promote greater sustainability in our world and in our society and at our university, Fitchburg State. So we're going to talk in that application section. We'll talk a lot about soil, food, where our food comes from, and agricultural practices, things that I have learned a lot about in the last decades running my own homestead. We'll also talk about big issues like fresh water and salt water. We'll talk a lot about energy and maybe even talk a little bit about artificial intelligence. And then in that last part 3 of the course, we're going to focus on ethics and spirituality, the relationship that we owe, the relationship that indigenous communities have had with the land. Again, thinking of sustainability as not just a set of future practices, but often a set of reclaiming wisdom from the past. And a lot of that wisdom comes from indigenous communities and indigenous practices. So I don't want you to worry. I'm not going to be recording the entire semester from my barn while I'm milking the cow. Probably just this one. In my 10 years as a professor, I've learned that, well, to be honest, I kind of knew this before, but I've learned over and over again that humans, I was going to say students, but humans, we're all unique, and we all learn in different ways. We have different interests, we have different backgrounds, we have different things that we focus on, we have different concerns and that sort of thing. So we learn in different ways. It's always a challenge for any professor to try and teach in a way that will be amenable to learning for all students in the class. And I've found that one of the best ways to do that is by kind of mixing things up, doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So we're going to have reading assignments. We'll read a chapter. On average, we'll read 2 chapters per week, but they're relatively short chapters, and I think easy, straightforward, and engaging. Still, though, not everybody learns well from reading. Personally, I have attention deficit disorder, rather severe attention deficit disorder. It's very difficult for me to read. I was going to take the textbook and have, audiobook created. There's so much AI out there these days that, I thought just recording an audiobook would be easy and affordable. And at the moment it is easy, but not affordable, at least not of any kind of quality. So what I'm going to do instead of getting an AI to record the audiobook is I'm planning to just read it to you. So I'm going to record a bunch of videos where I'm basically just reading the textbook, which means that if you're not really interested in that, you can just read the textbook. Everything's in there. Or if you're not big into reading, you can just watch the videos and not read the textbook because everything in the textbook's in the videos. And in fact, you don't even have to watch the videos. You could just listen to them. So you do you learn in the way that's best conducive to you and your learning style, whether that's reading or listening or watching, or maybe even doing all three at the same time, which I find incredibly effective. But this course isn't just going to be about the textbook. In fact, the textbook is really only a small part of the course. Perhaps like some of you, I find a lot of joy in listening to TED Talks. TED Talks are really great, because in most cases, it's a professor or somebody with a lot of experience, someone with a lot of credentials, and they've got this one moment to share their one big idea with everybody, right? 15 minutes to share their one big idea, or maybe the biggest idea on their mind that they really want to share the wisdom and knowledge that they have with the world. And so TED Talks I just find are really exciting and engaging. Of course, they're not all great, but a lot of them are. And there's really no shortage of TED Talks about the topics that we'll be studying in this course. So we'll have the textbook, which you can read. We'll have the videos of me reading the textbook, which you could watch or listen to or skip entirely if you want. And then the TED Talks, which will go along with those. We'll have TED Talks that match up with what I'm teaching in those units, in those chapters. And then in each chapter, we'll also have a documentary. A lot of the documentaries are shorter and some of the documentaries are longer. I tried not to ever put two sort of full-length documentaries in the same week, but it will require the amount of time that any college course should require. It's going to require a little bit less than your average in-class college course, but not much less. So you really need to plan accordingly. But the good news is I have everything laid out for you, clear about what your expectations are week by week by week. And in a typical week, it would be rare to spend more than 4 hours on this course. So as long as you set aside 4 hours a week for this course, then you should be fine. It is so cold that the milk that is on the handle is literally freezing on the handle. 13 degrees as I'm milking this right now. But in addition to those modalities, we're also going to learn in a couple of other ways. One is I'm going to ask you to keep a nature journal, and the nature journal basically involves you finding a spot. I'll say more about this when I'm not looking at the cow, but finding a spot and spending, not a major amount of time, but maybe half hour every week or every 2 weeks, just kind of in that space, meditating, being in that space, learning about the space, taking pictures of the space, drawing in the space, describing the space, reflecting on the space, and reflecting on the, things that you're learning in the course while you're in that space. So trying to counteract a little bit of the nature deficit disorder and bring us a little bit more into harmony with nature and our immediate local surroundings is the idea behind the nature journal. But that's not it. There are other modalities, two other modalities that I want to mention now. One is, in addition to the reading and the videos and the documentaries and the TED Talks and the nature journal, so the writing, in addition to those, we're also going to have you in small group discussions, and I'll divide you into groups of 4 or 5 students per group. And if you have a friend or somebody in the class that you want to be grouped with, that can certainly happen. Let me know about that. I'll have a way for you to let me know that later. Basically, you're going to meet with your group, probably virtually over Google Meet or Zoom or something like that. You'll meet with your team a few times during the semester and basically just talk about the material of the course. Reflect on how you're feeling about it. Reflect on how it relates to you and your career path and what you want to do with your living. So trying to take the material in the course and reflect on it, not just alone, but also with others. I noticed looking through the course roster that many of you have taken a class with me before, and pretty much anybody who's taken a class with me before has done this podcast assignment. I call it a podcast assignment, but it's really just a small group discussion. Okay. Did you reach too far? Yeah. And the last modality of the course will be meeting one-on-one with me. So meet with one-on-one with me at the beginning of the semester. Do this so that I can really get to know every student, find out who's in the course, find out what you're hoping to get out of it, and so that we can develop a rapport and relationship. Just makes everybody more comfortable, right? More irie. So there you go. We've got all these different modalities, right? Reading, watching videos, listening to the audio or video book recordings, the TED Talks, the documentaries, nature journaling, writing, reflecting in nature in some sort of space that you feel most comfortable in, talking over things with your peers, reflecting in small group discussion, and meeting individually one-on-one with me, with your professor. Last but not least, there's always office hours. So I'll have virtual office hours on Fridays. You can meet with me by scheduling in advance or last minute on Discord if I'm available on Fridays. And I'll also be on campus for my regular campus office hours. So if you're at Fitchburg State campus and you want to drop in and say hi IRL, then that's an option too. I hope you enjoy the course. I hope you enjoy it as much as I have enjoyed making it and am enjoying making it. Still got a long way to go, both on the writing and everything else. But it'll be an adventure, something that we're going to go through together. So on behalf of Buttercup and Lola, you want to say hi? And Dandy. Dandy's back there too. I'll show you a picture of Dandy. But welcome to Interdisciplinary Studies 1250, Introduction to Sustainability Studies. I hope you enjoy it. Word. Peace out.